Welcome to the Child Care Director's Chair, the podcast for bold educators who are ready to lead, grow, and shake things up in early childhood education. Whether you are a teacher eyeing that lead role, a lead stepping into leadership, or a center owner dreaming big, this is your space to grow with purpose and leave your mark. Hosted by heart-centered leadership coach Erica Sacoccio, each episode brings you real talk, actionable tools, and a contagious laugh or two, all designed to help you step into your next level with confidence. So pour your coffee, pop in those earbuds, and take your seat, because your leadership journey starts right now in the Child Care Director's Chair.
2, 1. What if the future of leadership doesn't start in the boardroom, but in the classroom? Didn't want that to happen. Okay, gonna do that over. Take 2. What if the future of leadership doesn't start in the boardroom, but in the preschool classroom? Today's early childhood educators are doing more than teaching ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. They're shaping tomorrow's leaders. But who's supporting now? In this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about innovation in the early childhood workforce, leadership from the ground up, and why now is the moment to invest in educators who are lifting the next generation off the runway. So fasten your seatbelts, because the wheels are up. We are talking today with our keynote speaker for our Saturday conference at the Early Education Empowerment Conference. And we are so excited to have her. She's a returning guest. We are sitting with Dr. Kim, I'm probably going to say your name wrong, because I do every time, Krzanowski?
Krzanowski, yes.
Okay. I was close. I'm going to get it by the third or fourth time. So she is going to give us an inspiring keynote that takes us on a journey from takeoff to touchdown, exploring how leadership is cultivated, nurtured, and sustained in early childhood education. So welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you. Thrilled to be back and just super excited to see all of the wonderfulness that's going to be happening in Rhode Island in May. So I'm super excited. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm super excited too. So when we talk about innovation and early childhood workforce, what does that really mean to you? Why is it so critical right now?
What's a word for like above critical? That's what I always think about. It's like,
1 minute
it's
from
critical.
flatline.
Critical to the next step. I often joke a lot of the work that I've been doing over the past, few years, about innovation doesn't have to be complicated. It has to be centralized and focused. It has to be meaningful. So I think now when it comes to innovation in workforce, it's really looking at the educator and thinking about what do they need to feel supported, heard, valued, compensated. I mean, yes, it's a big one. And a lot of things that directors or organizations can do is really about meeting the person where they are, helping them grow, and understanding what's going to motivate them, right? We know there's intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. And I think a lot of times we get caught up on, well, we're not finding people, or we can't retain people because of the extrinsic, right? The compensation. And that's a big part. And I don't want anyone to think that that's not a priority. But we have found that in Delaware, where I am, or other states, we're really looking at providing supports to people to keep them in a place where they know they're on a career trajectory, and we're removing barriers like providing technology, giving them coach supports, giving them stipends that tap into that extrinsic, motivation, completion bonuses. But I think finally people are understanding that there is a career trajectory in early childhood to make more money, to to be able to do different things, to really gain that leadership experience, but you have to be ready for the jump, is what I say, right? So you have to be ready when an opportunity
Hmm.
comes about. Do you have a degree? Are you working on that? Have you taken leadership development courses? Do you have a mentor, right? Mentoring costs nothing. It costs nothing for me to say, come in here and let's have a conversation about your career and how networking and, attending certain things are important. So I think the innovation is just being committed to doing what's right for the educator. And that can look like different things for different people.
Yeah, I love that. And I think every state should have some type of a career lattice framework that you can visually see, that you can hang up in your center, that shows staff how they can move up. And I think too with like the changing of the landscape, I'm always a positive girl. I just am. And I am excited about the thought of more investments in early childhood. I mean, clearly the conversations are happening. So I'm happy about that, right? Because we weren't having these conversations before COVID. It was just like kind of whatever the standard was, that was just going to be the thing. Nobody was, putting money into it. But now you can't get away from the conversation. So it's just really, where is that money going to go? How are we going to use it? And make it a better system, not crash the whole system and start from the ground up. So it'll be interesting to see where the funds go. But if funding does come into early childhood, there, as you said, there's a lot more opportunities to earn what, I don't want to say what we're worth because we are priceless, but, to earn something close to that, beyond a livable wage, for sure, like every
Right,
other
right.
professional who has a
Exactly.
degree that goes to school for 8 to 9 years, right? We should be compensated the same way.
Right,
Um,
and I would just add, Erica, like, I
yeah.
keep saying, like, there's a small window of opportunity that we have seen in the past.
Hmm.
You just mentioned COVID. That was an opportunity for this field, right, to take that and say, "You think we're essential? We'll show you how essential we are," right? And voices matter. So, again, with funding being pulled or funding being halted, and this talk about universal childcare, affordable childcare. It's the window is opened again, and
Yes.
I'm just I'm really hoping that we have learned from previous situations that the time of being nice is over. The
Hmm.
time of sitting back and hoping, there's a podcast out there called No One's Coming to Save Us, right?
Yeah.
It's true. We have to save ourselves. So,
Hmm.
when people like you and myself and other advocates are out there talking to people, right? Like when we
Yeah.
say what early childhood is and what it isn't, and promoting the career, the profession, the educator's, commitment to doing all of this, there's a window. And I think funding follows voices. The
Hmm.
loudest people, in DC tend to get things done, right? So I just, I'm trying to think about ways that as a profession we have to unite and be crystal clear on our purpose and our vision forward, because we even confuse ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Like we confuse others and confuse ourselves. But the
Hmm.
time is now, and we have to think about what flag are we planting in that sand that's going to take this to the next level. So, conversations like this and getting people in a spot where they feel like they can talk about themselves in a positive way is so important. And I'm just hoping that as a profession, we can really unify around that.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those that, they get nervous about the word advocacy, listen, you don't have to go to the state house, which if you do, that's great. But write a letter, get your parents involved. People really pay attention when the parents get involved and they start advocating, because they know those are voters, and voters by the plenty. So there's lots of ways to advocate. That's a whole different show. Anyway,
Yeah.
so your keynote uses the metaphor of aviation from takeoff to touchdown. What does takeoff look like for early childhood educators stepping into leadership?
it takes being ready for the jump. And you'll hear that more in May when I speak about this. Being ready for the jump means being ready. You are locked in, you are ready to go. You have to be thinking about your next step. So,
Mhm.
does that mean understanding what it means to be a leader in this work? Yes, it does. That means finding people to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of this work, right? Leadership is not for everyone. I often say that to be in a leadership role, you have to be okay with not being liked. You have to be
Mhm.
okay with making hard decisions. And you have to be okay that no matter what, you are going to advocate for yourself and your team and this work, no matter what situation you're brought into. So, when you're getting ready for the takeoff, you got to be ready, just like when you're on a plane. Are you buckled up? Have you heard the safety instructions? You know where the exit signs are? Same thing, it's a metaphor for early childhood. Like, now's the time. If you don't want to sit in that exit row because you're not ready to help people, then you better buzz the bell and get moved back, right?
Yeah.
You know, but if you're ready, then I want to be able to help people who are ready take that next step, right? I had great mentors in my life who told me good, bad, and ugly. And it's all true, right? I remember sitting there thinking to myself, this is never going to happen. It's happened 10 times, right? So investing in people and allowing them to be the leaders, you have to give them opportunities to fail, also to succeed, right? I have been fallen on my face on a lot of things, right? But then I know the next time not to do that. If no one gave me an opportunity, I wouldn't have known. So, when
Mhm.
you're taking off, you got a lot of emotions, right? Is this the right, should I be on this plane? Do I really
Mhm.
need to go here? What am I doing? Then you're airborne, right? You're cruising. Then you get some turbulence, right? That's life. How do you react to that? And then when you finally land on your feet, right, you're much more prepared and you're ready for the next flight. So I'll be using a lot of those metaphors and
I
things
love
in
it.
my conversation, but it's really about if you need to find the people that want to invest in you, whether that's
Mm.
time, energy, money, whatever it is, and get yourself a mentor. And if you don't have one, put it out there that you want one. There's a lot of people with a lot of great experience that love to talk about what they've done and what they haven't done. And I think that's real. When you hear someone say, I had a great idea, I tried it, it totally tanked, but I learned from it, it makes you think like, well, maybe I should try that and see what happens. Your idea that you wrote down on a piece of paper could be the next big thing for this field, and we wouldn't know if we didn't try it. So that's what you'll hear in my conversation.
Yeah. Be bold. First of all, Kim, you're flying the plane. Um, you're flying the plane for sure. And for my folks that are listening, that maybe you've been in the field a really long time and you're not sure, where you're going to fit in the next, few years. Listen, it doesn't matter how old you are. I'm 55. I just went back to school and started school this week. Listen, it doesn't matter. You could be just starting off. You could be here a long time. Always keep growing, always keep investing in yourself. Because I don't feel like you ever really hit that final destination because there's always another destination. So I think that that's important. Many educators don't see themselves as leaders. So how do we shift that mindset and help teachers recognize their leadership power? And I saw this yesterday. I was up in Connecticut. I was doing a PD day, and I had asked a question about leadership. And then it said, "Are you talking about our directors?" And I'm like, "No, talking about you." And they were like, they didn't make that connection right away. So I'm like, "You leading every day. You're leading your classrooms. You're leading your children. You're a lot of times if you're in the infant room, you might be leading parents, first time parents. They come to you like, oh my God, my kid doesn't sleep, or my kid is eating everything in the
A-
room, chewing on books. What does that mean?" Probably some
Absolutely.
molars coming in, right? So talk to that a little bit. How can we help educators, particularly the leaders? Because that's really who we're going to be talking to on Saturday. Um, we want our teachers to see themselves as the leaders they are.
all the things that you said, yes. But I think it has to be real for folks. I was a classroom teacher for a number of years. I did that. I talked to first time moms. I had to handle and talk through families who this is their second or third child, but their second or third child is different than their first child. So the comparison issue, right?
Hmm.
My child never bit anyone. Well, now your child's a biter, right? So all of those things. I don't think we as educators think that daily practice is leadership, right? It's not until someone shows us or tells us or invites us to the table. Erica, I think the biggest thing we do for aspiring leaders is hear their voices and give them a platform so they understand what they're doing is correct, it's valued, and that it is building this toolbox over here of leadership skills. Many people don't consider themselves leaders because they haven't been in a spot where they've been asked to contribute or to share their opinion. Again, it costs nothing to poll your staff or, your colleagues to say, how are you doing about this? What am I doing? And then giving them an opportunity to bring a solution and implement it, right? It may
Yeah.
not work. It may not work, but when you do that, people start to feel empowered. And I think the worst thing leaders can do to aspiring leaders is suck the air out of the room,
Mm,
right?
mm,
I don't always have to be the one talking, right? I need to let people on my team talk and provide solutions. And when they work, great, we celebrate it. When they don't, we're back elbow to elbow and we're talking about what worked, what will work next time. So I think empowerment is a big form of this. And I think it's hard for people who've been in leadership roles a long time to pass that baton. They sort of think, well, I learned it on my own and no one helped me. And here I am. And we get stuck in that mindset. But if we shift it and we say, you know what? It's not working. Whatever policy or issue we're having, let me bring in some of my teachers, right? And ask them, how can we make this different, right? What is happening? They start to feel empowered. And that's leadership building. That is leadership skill building right then and there. You're ready for the jump now. Then, right, you start to be noticed and you start to become the person that other people are going towards. There are natural born leaders. I truly believe that. But I also believe that leaders come in different forms and fashions. And sometimes you might think someone has that ability and you got to give that time and grow it. It may not work out. And the person over here that you thought absolutely not, they're content. They don't want, they start shining. So, I think empowering, giving voice, making sure that they have a piece of the puzzle, that's how we develop our leaders for the next round of this, because people are cycling in and cycling out. And if we're not thinking about succession planning, that takes a long time. That's not a 2-day, 2-week, 2-month thing. When you hire, I would tell my staff, when you hire people, think about, could they take over your job? And a lot of people don't want to think about that, but you have to be thinking about it. Who's going to take this when I move on or it's time for me to go? Because we all should be thinking about different opportunities. So, empowerment, voice, and just recognizing that people can bring different perspectives, but you've got to give them a chance to try it.
Oh, I love all the things you just said. What are well, sometimes when I go to the meetings, I've been talking for so long. I'm like, guys, I'm tired of hearing myself talk. Someone else, please do the talking. I think we start to get to a place, leaders that are very mature and very comfortable in their own skin, where it's like, here's the mic, honey, go for it. I'm gonna sit
Go.
here. I love to hear what you can add to the conversation. Absolutely, one of my favorite things about being a leader is hearing those other perspectives. And they really help you find those blind spots. And as far as succession planning, girl, I've been saying for 2 years, I'm getting out of the day-to-day operations. It takes longer than you think.
Longer than you think.
Longer than you
And
think.
right. And sometimes you're not ready to go, but something pushes you, and you've
Sure.
got to just say, you know what? I've given this person support. They're going to have to fly on their own. Talk about the aviation, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to be in that pilot seat, and you may not have logged all those hours, but you've got to make the decision. I am always impressed how certain people act under pressure. Some
Mm.
people, that is their jam, right? They get in the zone and they're good. Others struggle. So that's where you help them, right? Because as a leader, you're constantly under pressure, under fire, making decisions. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, right? But being kind to yourself to say, I've given all I can. I've given this person the support. Now they have to make the decision. That's hard. That's hard for people when you've been doing this for so long. But we got to get out of our own and others' ways sometimes too. People can't be in the same position forever and think that no one's going to want to ever, move into that position. So, leadership is interesting. The psychology of it is interesting. You finally get that position, but, no one wants you there for 10, 20 years. Let someone else do it. You go on to move on to other things. And that's a problem we have in this field. Succession planning, having time and energy to devote to people so that they can be ready to make their own legacy.
Awesome. So as we start to wrap up, I want to talk about this because this is really important too. For our educators who are feeling burned out or stuck on the runway, what's your message to help them reignite their passion and purpose?
Find people who you relate to and that can help you get into circles and networks that can develop you. Not everyone can attend national conferences. If you can, you will automatically feel like you were in the right place with all of these people. So seek out opportunities, whether they're local, regional, national, right? Stay connected on social media. That's free. Start logging in and hearing what national organizations or what is happening in the world. Um, I live in Delaware. I can be very comfortable just seeing what's going on locally, but I have to know what's happening in my neighboring states, in California, across the country. It's important, right, that we all know what's going on. So if you're feeling stuck, find people, a mentor, a colleague, someone that can help you stay focused on what you want to do. Have a plan, right? If you don't like where you're working now, there are tons of opportunities to work
Mm.
in other places. And the more education you have, the more power you have in negotiating and getting your dream job. So I would say if you're stuck, figure out how you get unstuck, right? Does your state have career advisors? Can you talk to a mentor? Does your director offer that? If not, social media, you'll learn a lot from that. You can connect with people. There's things that cost and there's things that don't cost. But if you're stuck, you have to figure out a way to get unstuck. And I hope that doesn't mean leaving the field, because it's a great, wonderful community, but you got to find the right people in it. So
Yeah.
find the people, get a plan, right? And then think about where you're going to be in the next 3 to 5 years. Like you're the pilot, like you said that you're flying the plane. We're all flying our own planes. But it's connecting with people and making sure that you can help them. You might have to push them a little bit to get them unstuck.
Awesome. And for those of you who think that I really want to go to a conference, I am jazzed up after listening to you two. We want you to come too. So if you don't have the ability to get a ticket, inbox me. If you have the ability to get a ticket, hit the link below and get a ticket. We also have a BOGO right now where you buy a ticket, you get one for free. So if you're a director out there, bring in maybe that teacher that's a rock star, but just doesn't see it yet, but you do. I think we'll end with this. Leadership in early childhood isn't about titles. It's about influence. It's about vision. It's about courage. And when we invest in educators, we invest in the children. And really, isn't that the point, right? When we come together and learn and collaborate, we lead, we can create a workforce that doesn't just survive, but truly soars. So again, conference link is below. As always, Thank you to our friend Kim, and we will see you very, very soon in May.
You sure will. I hope to
Oh.
see everyone there. Thank you.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Child Care Director's Chair, where we believe leaders aren't born, they're grown. If something sparked for you today, share it, shout it out, or pass it along to the next bold changemaker in childcare. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and stay connected with Erica Sacosio for more real talk leadership tools and a whole lot of inspiration. Until next time, lead with heart, grow with fire, and always remember, the chair is yours. Now own it.